Hey there. As you might know, my wife Sarah and we just recently bought a house. We haven't actually closed or moved in or anything yet, but it's pretty much official. And from the moment that I realized that we were going to be living there, I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about the people who lived there and also the history of the house. I grew up in a house that was built in like the 70s, so there wasn't a whole lot of history there. So when we finally bought this house that was built in the 20s, I knew there was some research to do. So I went over to the library and, I knew they had a big section, a floor of local history and stuff like that. So I just talked to the librarian there and she kind of led me through the process of researching the history of your house. And they have these big just card catalogs with all the real estate information on pretty much every property in the city, and you can go through each little card and see photos of your houses and also figure out how much it was sold for originally or how much it was sold for in the 60s, etc. And just maybe some of those things like, oh, when the kitchen was renovated and stuff like that. But then she told me that there was this whole section of books, kind of like a directory of the city from the early 1900s all the way to present day. And you can go through each one of these books. What you do is you just find your address in the back of the book from any date ranging from, early on to current day. And I picked 1931, all the rest before that were microfiche. So I went through 1931 and looked up my address and found the name of the guy. His name was Raymond Baxter. So then I turned all the way to the front of the book and found that his wife's name was Dorothy and that he worked at the Grand Rapids Varnish Company. And it turns out that they actually ended up living in that house that they built until the 1960s. So, it's just kind of cool to know that in the 1920s, a guy who had a high up position at the Varnish Company, and being Grand Rapids with all the furniture industry and stuff, I would imagine that's a pretty good job. He built our house, and he lived there for such a long time. And we actually ended up finding out that we knew the people who lived there from like the 70s on to 1998, and now obviously the people who we're buying from. So the librarian also gave me some information saying that I could get more info on my house at the city assessor's office downtown. So I went there and they just have all these file cabinets and like files on each house. So I found this, and it's like some old photos of my house from 1936 and just some of the original information, when it was assessed by the city. Gives kind of like measurements of the house and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just so cool to learn the history of your house and being able to kind of track who's lived there and who, has cared for it. It's just, I don't know, it's really exciting as a new homeowner to know the history behind where you live. And I would encourage everyone else to do it if they have the chance or resources. Thanks for joining me. See you tomorrow.